ILD Alliance Entrepreneurs Live event comprising 2 sessions tonight. Session 1 is intended for company owners and invited guests. It consists of a business briefing overview of the proprietary business strategies for profiting in the digital economy. Then there will be a 15-minute break, and the bathrooms are down the hallway to your right down there. Session 2 is a deeper dive into the training experience explaining specific steps to build a strong and profitable business to create ongoing income cash flow asset. So tonight's speakers are well known throughout our industry, not only for launching and the growth of their own team and their own company in the upper Midwest, but around this country and around the world. I suggest you grab some writing utensils because there will be something to learn from this couple, which you will want to apply to your company and your team and to yourself. So will you please welcome, from right here in Plymouth, Minnesota, Ken and Jenny Nelson.
And thank you, Paul and Mary Hastings, for hosting this event, and to our hosts, Kevin and Amy Erickson. We appreciate all the Platinums who have helped put this event together for the benefit of those who are here. Ginny has a few words to say, but before she does, I want to introduce her. When we were in San Jose del Cabo, she shared, I believe, with David and April, I don't remember if others were present when she shared or not, the 3 most significant birthdays she had. And her birthday was this last Sunday, so that's why she was reflecting on it. But the first one that she mentioned was the night that we both noticed each other. Now, she noticed me skating, and she really didn't know where noticing each other would lead to, but I noticed her sitting on a bed across from where I was sitting in a room of people who were celebrating after an ice skating party given in her honor on her birthday, January 9th. She said the second most significant birthday was when our granddaughter, Lydia, was born 10 minutes before midnight on her birthday. And I remember her joy when Lydia's father came in and announced, because Lydia's mother, our daughter Becky, was in another room, that Lydia had been born. I remember the joy that Ginny had on that night. You remember that, Ginny?
Oh, yes.
But then she said the most significant birthday that she remembered was that one last Sunday when we celebrated in San Jose del Cabo at the home of David and April Humphrey with all who were in attendance of Emerald Club Plus 2022. She has never had more fun on a birthday than she had last Sunday. And she may or may not tell you a little bit about that perhaps afterwards, but it was a blast. And if you follow along the Gold Core Huddle, you'll see some of the fun that she had on that day. The reason I wanted to speak first before Ginny says a few words is because she is a big support in what we have done to be asked to speak to you tonight. And we appreciate David and April Humphrey, who are the president and vice president of ILD Global, the Global Alliance of Entrepreneurs, and they have given us the honor of speaking tonight. So we're grateful for that opportunity and appreciate their trust in us. So I also appreciate Jenny because she has been with me from this effort in the beginning. And she's been an encouragement to me in countless ways. She has been on board with the 9 core steps, which she's going to teach about in the next session from the beginning. And she did everything that it takes to build a successful business. And she prays for me. She encourages me in countless ways. She communicates on a regular basis with her mentor, as I do with my mentor. We both talk to our mentors this week since we returned from their home in Mexico. And that means the world to me, Jenny, that you check in as you do daily. And I'll say a word about that a little later. So I know you have a few words to say.
Well, one of the things about my birthday this year is my birthday's always been cold, like freezing. So this is the first year that I enjoyed summer weather on my birthday on January 9th. So it was pretty special. We did have a blast. I'm just going to give a little bit of our story in preparation for Ken showing the business. A number of years ago, Ken had made a trip to Vancouver, British Columbia to see his family and also to see about getting tax deductible receipts for Canadian donors because Ken was the chaplain and was raising his own support. And so he came back from that trip and he said, I met this really nice young doctor. And I think he thought maybe that this young doctor was going to give support to him as a chaplain. But he said he asked me these questions and I was kind of curious about it. But then a few months later, this young doctor called Ken and he actually came to Minnesota and explained the business to Ken. And then that young doctor happened to be Dr. David Humphrey, who is the head of ILD Global. And then he gave us a meeting to go to. We went to a meeting where we heard the most amazing speaker talk about freedom, family, hope, reward. And that just sold us. We went home and we called David and we said, we want to do this business. And we appealed to him to mentor us. And he said he would, even though he's 1,500 miles away from us. And it has changed our lives. I used to feel like I was in a box but there was no lid. I mean, there was no door. It was just, I was stuck. That's how I felt because of the income drop that we had with our young family. So our lives have just been enriched in so many ways, including being free from a job and enjoying life and being able to go to places like Cabo and not have to ask a boss if we can get time off. So I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Jenny. As I came into the hotel tonight, and yesterday actually, I remembered the fact that several years ago when David Humphrey and I walked into the front of this hotel, Crown Plaza, Minneapolis West in Minneapolis here in Plymouth, there was a sign about the meeting that David had come to do. And I don't remember what was on the sign, but I remember David looking at the sign and taking a step back and suggesting he had come in a day early. Let's change the title of this meeting to Profiting in the Digital Economy. Now, you've seen that for several years now, and that was David's brain idea. David is a very keen thinker, as you may know, and that thought came to him well before much of the development of the digital economy. So as I think of profiting in the digital economy, the theme of our presentation in this business briefing, I think of David Humphrey, our leader, who has given us all something to think about, and that's what I want you to think about this evening, how you can profit in the digital economy. And as we do that, we want to think about something Simon Sinek has suggested in a video and in a book that he wrote, Power of Why. And there's a subtitle for Why on that video when you see it that suggests the essence of the why, about how leaders create action and make things happen. And so many people think of the what, and then the how, and then the why. Great companies, as he illustrates on his message, start with the why, and he illustrates that with several companies which we're familiar with, and move out to the how and the why, how and the what. And so what I'm suggesting to you this evening is that we join great thinkers, as illustrated by Simon Sinek, and start with the why. And the why is really your purpose. The why is really about your dreams. When we went to that meeting that Ginny was referring to with Bill Britt, he said, nothing happens without a dream. The dream is everything. How do I remember that? Because I wrote that down. I have that in my notes, which I still have. So this is where we want to start in our thinking, is about the dream. The dream that motivates us to get up. What motivates you to get up and get into your day with purpose? I was reading a book recently that had slipped away from my attention. I read 2 or 3 books at least a month, some of which are suggested by my mentor, and one that came out in September by Sam Silverstein about the accountability circle had as a subtitle, Discovering Your Purpose. And I shared with David on December the first week how impactful that book was to me, in which he said, our purpose is our why. And my purpose was clarified as recently as last month because of what I read in one of our books in our learning program. And I'm grateful for that program that we have. This is a fireside chat tonight, and this is for those who are perhaps being vetted and processed as potential mentees by a mentor who wants to invest their time in you for the achievement of your why and your dreams. And I would welcome any who are new as business owners as well to this presentation, so that you can sit in on this conversation. And we're in the business of selecting, not recruiting, and processing you, and we'll say more about that in the next session. There's power in your why. Our focus tonight is how you can get ahead in your life by focusing on your dreams. A discussion to help determine if there's a fit suitable for your mentor to work with you. The question I would ask you is, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? That's something to think about. And the rest of our life is less today than it was yesterday, and it continues to shrink as the days go by. And so that's a good reason to focus on our why. What do we want to do with the rest of our life? What are we going to do with the time that we have left? How can you get ahead in your life by being a company owner? How Great Leaders Inspire Action is the subtitle of Simon Sinek's book and the video. Simon Sinek is an author of that slide, and then we recommend that people read a book, several chapters in the beginning, by Robert Kiyosaki called Cash Flow Quadrant. I have several books by him in my library, and I've read them all, and I've benefited from all of them. But Cash Flow Quadrant is what's illustrated here, and the E stands for employ. These are 4 ways to produce income, and the E is when you have a job. The S is when you're self-employed and you own a job. I was a pastor for 14 years, and I basically owned a job. I was in this quadrant, and after being a pastor, I transitioned into chaplaincy. I loved what I did as a pastor. I loved preaching. I made the transition into chaplaincy by doing what I would consider an act of random kindness. I remember going to a conference for pastors, and the speaker was one of my professors from Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, and he challenged everybody who was present, who were pastors, to think of what we were doing that our congregations didn't expect us to do. And I was convicted because I couldn't think of one thing that I was doing that my congregation didn't expect me to do. So I thought about that, and I thought, what could I do as an act of random kindness, even though I didn't use those words? And I had a colleague who had told me several times that he was in a group of pastors in the community where we lived in the northwest part of Minneapolis, and basically once a month they would get together at North Memorial Healthcare and hear a lecture from somebody on the medical staff, or somebody who was a fire chief or a firefighter or the police chief or a police officer, and they would educate us, and then those who were willing would be on call for a period of time, 24 hours, once or twice a month, and be available should they be needed. And after going to a couple of those, I decided to get involved in that. As a result of volunteering my time, I learned about a program called Clinical Pastoral Education, and when I made the decision to transition out of the pastorate into the chaplaincy, I decided to enroll in clinical pastoral education because I didn't have a church at that time, having left the pastorate. I was assigned as a ministry site the emergency room at North Memorial, which is a level 1 trauma center. And I would spend half of my time there, and then half of my time with peers who would evaluate our interactions, which we documented, with a supervisor. And I realized that the hospital was a valid base for ministry, and I found it very intriguing. And as a result, I learned about the opportunity at St. Paul, at that time Ramsey Medical Center, now called Regions Hospital, and on the condition that I would raise my own support, I came over there, and I started at $10 an hour. I won't tell you what year it was, but it was a significant drop, and that was just for 10 hours a week. They were checking me out and evaluating whether I had the goods to, provide the service that they wanted, and I did. And so they increased my time, but they said, you're responsible for your own income. At the time, the reason was that hospital used the argument, which in my opinion wasn't valid, that this being a state-funded hospital, we can't support a faith-based ministry, so you're on your own. I had a supervisor in the hospital, but Lutheran Social Services provided my supervisor. The Archdiocese provided a chaplain, and so there were several of us who were there on a basis of providing our own support. And so I appealed to the people I knew, individuals and faith communities, for their support. And as I became full-time eventually, my income level was probably half of what my income was as a pastor at the last site. And so that was a significant change, as Ginny intimated. And during my educational period of getting clinical pastoral education, I remember working as a personal care attendant at a home in Brooklyn Park for severely and emotionally challenged individuals. And that was a very strange encounter for me, but when I got to the hospital, it really was a preparation, because I related to the people that I saw on the hospital as patients and felt more comfortable being able to look at them and engage with them and so on. So there was a purpose in that which I appreciated. As Ginny indicated, because I was a Canadian by birth and had pastored in Canada and had family in Canada, I I made a trip to see my father, but also an attorney in Vancouver, British Columbia, who had a foundation that issued tax-deductible receipts to Canadian donors. And on that weekend that I went, it happened to be my birthday weekend, which was meaningful, my parents' anniversary weekend, when my dad was being honored at Trinity Western University. I was able to secure with the attorney his approval of issuing tax-deductible receipts to Canadian donors, which lasted for several years. And it was after that that I went through the airport, and I waited to get on the plane to Seattle, and across the waiting room was a gentleman who came over, introduced himself to me, and he mentioned that he was a physician. After I was asked, you look familiar, have we met before? I said, I don't think so. He said, maybe it was in business. What do you do for a living? I told him I was a chaplain. He said, do you love Jesus? Because, he thought that might fit with what I did. And I said, my response was, how about you? He said, me too. I said, he's my best friend, me too. And so he listened to me, asked me questions. I liked him. And as we walked down the jetway, we exchanged contact information. And he said, I may have need of your services someday. I hope that he did. He said, I may be expanding one of my companies into the Minneapolis marketplace. And I told Jenny about him when I got home. I told my mother, who's a registered nurse, when I got home about meeting this doctor. And one thing led to another. And he became our mentor. And that's why we're here this evening, sharing with you about what we do. He introduced us to the business system way of making money, where you own a system, and there's different ways of doing that. One is the traditional C Corp, with hundreds of employees working for you and your system, or franchise, where you buy an existing system and have duplication with employees who work for you, and then digital direct distribution, where we are involved today and move goods and services, connect them from suppliers to consumers in a dynamic way with other independent business owners who are part of our network. And the value of that is that we benefit from the duplication process, the networking process, the multiplication process, which has been called the eighth wonder of the world. And so I was so glad to be involved in a multiplication system of my effort with the involvement of other people that David and later April coached us to find to be included. The I quadrant, the investor, we learned we could invest our time in building our company. We invested our time in personal development. We invested our time in other people, building relationships, and we duplicated through the network. And as Dr. Humphrey has said, that eventually, when you have sufficient income through your business system, you can create a war chest for your future, which he has done and is modeled for the rest of us. The three intersecting economies here are significant: internet economy, distribution economy, and the network economy, because we don't have any worries about the supply chain in the global economy that we're working in. That's been in the news on a daily and weekly basis, as you know, if you follow the news at all on your phone or wherever. And we don't have those issues. They may affect some of the shipments to us, but that's worries that we don't have, that others take care of for us, which is wonderful. These intersect together in what's called the U economy. Mel Robbins has a short video about that. And when we were in San Jose del Cabo, we were in traffic, Ginny and I, with Rick and Mary Jane Matthews, and I noticed ahead of us was a woman on a motorcycle, and she had a backpack on her back, and it said Uber Eats. I shared that with David and April, and April's response was, women everywhere are also interested in the U economy. it was refreshing to me to see the ingenuity as Mexican people have in creating income. And this lady was right in the middle there of the economies and benefiting the people that she was taking the food to, and of course creating some income for herself. There are giants in the distribution economy, as you know. Walmart, eBay, Apple, AT&T, which is the largest communication system in the world. I read that recently. Costco, Amazon, Amway, which is the largest direct distribution company in the world. Alibaba, Home Depot, Office Depot, Petco, Saks Fifth Avenue, and others. There are trending markets as well that are taking place. And these are illustrations of the U economy: Airbnb, vacation rental by owner, HomeAway, Uber, Lyft, and Zipcar, Etsy, Poshmark, and Shopify. And you'll notice that the $1.5 trillion wellness market is expected to increase annually by 5 to 10%. And if you follow along in the business that some of us are involved in, you know that that is the focus of our future growth. It's so evident on a monthly basis that that's where we're headed. And that's to our benefit as we move into the future. There are attributes of the 21st century, many of them, but these are just some of them. Low investment, which was appealing to Ginny and I to have micro capital. We did not have a lot of cash flow. We saved up over 3 pay periods to come up with the minimal pay to get started. That's where we were at. Once we made the decision after going to a meeting like this in St. Paul to get more information. Time flexibility, that was appealing to us. Ginny was working full-time. She was a mother, a wife. She was on 2 or 3 different boards. She was chairman of one of the boards for, I won't mention it, New Life Family Services. I won't mention what they were concerned about, but it was a passion of hers, still exists, and I appreciate her involvement. And as we started building our business, we realized that we needed to take away some time to invest in our financial future by pulling back on that. But time flexibility was wonderful. I was working on my doctorate. When I met David Humphrey, I was writing on my thesis on the dimension of hope in the treatment of depression. I had had a clinical depression in the past. I was past that. I had hope. I was writing on that dimension of that, but as I got involved with Dr. Humphrey and the ILD Global Alliance of Entrepreneurs, I changed my topic to financial independence for the funding of ministry. And that really drove me to finish all the work that was involved with it, but it took a lot of time, as you can imagine. And I remember one of the gentlemen who had gotten his doctorate told me, he said, talk to other people who've earned their doctorate and ask them how they got the time to do what they had to do. And I appreciated that practical advice. We're in over 100 countries and territories. There's no glass ceiling, intellectual property and patent protection, minimal to no employees, duplication with company owners, as I mentioned previously, intellectually challenging and rewarding. What we do is build online bridges to consumers, as I mentioned, so we can profit in the digital economy. For those of you who just perhaps have arrived, that's a phrase that David Humphrey came up with several years ago in this hotel when he saw the signage at the door. Said, let's put that up there. And we use that to describe what we do in our present economy. What we do is, in our mobile economy, establish company owners. You see the suppliers here, Amway Global, which is a daughter company of Altacore, and Access Business Group, which does much of the research and development. Altacore, some of the back-end aspects of that. Own the Amway Global, as I mentioned. It's the largest direct distribution company in the world. They have distributed over $60 million in bonuses. They're involved in over 100 countries and territories, and they have significant product lines: Nutrilite, Artistry, Body Key, XS, partner stores. Home Depot is one, Apple is another, and Bank of America is another. I read this past week that Bank of America is one of the most significant financial institutions in the world. These are companies that do business with Amway Global. So we're proud to be involved in them as a supplier. What we do as we move goods and services from supplier, make connections through our network, is we develop consumers who are independent business owners and customers. And then the mentoring and coaching so that we have the skills to develop a network, so that we have the skills to stick with our goals and achieve our dreams, is provided by the ILD Global Alliance of Entrepreneurs, by people who qualify others for the mentoring that we do. And mentoring is a key part of the future to help people achieve what they're able to do. We had no business background when we got started, and we are indebted to David and April Humphrey for their support. Napoleon Hill has defined mentoring as gaining from another's experience and not your own, the mastermind principle. As I mentioned earlier, Ginny and I have both been involved since we returned from David and April's home in San Jose del Cabo on Monday night, that we've both had huddle play huddle, Ginny with April and myself with David, and we do this weekly. And that is the key to our onward motion in succeeding to achieve our dreams. We moved from this to the next slide here, which is phase 1, Journey to Platinum. What we do is we look for a qualification through our mentoring process and our vetting process for 3 other independent business owners. And when each of those develops 5 to 10 customers, it's very reasonable that they could develop $250 on a monthly basis of income. And when you do the same thing as they do, $3,000 or $3,100 per year is certainly achievable. That's building a firm foundation of duplication through independent business owners and having some customers. The foundation of education, business structure, and mentorship, and customer development, a team of 3 new company owners. In our journey to platinum, phase 2, you look for 3 more. You could have more, of course, depending on your ambitions. And if you do the same thing as you did with the others and help each of those develop 5 to 10 customers, and each of those are creating $3,100 in business for themselves, you are rewarded with an average income, is what is called a platinum level, of $53,400 per year in additional income. We've been able to achieve some of our dreams by doing that. I know you can do the same, and that's a worthy goal. And in the next session to follow, we'll be teaching, as Paul mentioned, the ways to make that happen. I don't know what your whys are. If it's just a little bit more income so that you can get rid of the pressure at the end of the month, if it's creating options for yourself, if it's getting rid of a second job, if it's having job optional, if it's purchasing a different car, if it's creating an emergency fund. You know, life happens. And having 3 to 6 months of savings in an account enables you to take care of those unexpected events that happen in your life and pay cash for them. And when they happen, Murphy's Law, I think it's called, life happens, and it's nice to be prepared. So there's lots of ways to use extra money, and you determine what those are. Maybe it's providing education for your children, more generous in your giving, supporting others, maybe eliminating credit card debt, eventually house debt, etc. The next slide here is phase 3, which indicates that there's many levels of expanding team structure to significantly higher incomes. You can help others reach 7,500. There's a 6% leadership bonus when you do. When we reached what's called the platinum level, Jenny came home being a full-time employee and became a full-time mother. When I reached the level of helping 3 other independent business owners become platinums, I was able to make the transition from chaplaincy into the ministry in the marketplace. I had great joy that evening, and I saw that ministry in the marketplace is possible, and of course you get a 6% bonus when you help others do that. David has shared with me that, and I remember this, that he has helped 10 others do that, and I know he's looking to help others do that in the future as well. So what I want to suggest to you is next steps in building a network, and that's on this last slide, action steps. What we call a meeting 4, and this is a meeting 3, if you're in the process, is a follow-up where you review the expectations on earning mentorship. There are audios that you will want to listen to. In the follow-up, what you want to do is review this meeting tonight and then receive from your mentor their story audio. There's other audios that you will be given access to. Pathways to Ongoing Income by Dr. David Humphrey. Women in Business by April Humphrey. Doorway to Mentorship. If you haven't heard that recently, I would encourage you to listen to that. Dr. Humphrey shared the rigorous mentorship that he received. It was rigorous and high expectations from his mentor, and your mentor will have high expectations for you if you're in the process of being evaluated for mentorship, and then make mailboxmoney.com. Now, today is the 15th of the month. I encourage you, if you haven't listened to that, to listen to that recently. All the members of the executive team of the ILD Global Alliance of Entrepreneurship record on there. And today being the 15th of the month, I noticed the time on our email that we got a notice that a payment had been made, and I believe it was 12:54 a.m., which would be 1:54 a.m. in Michigan, where this payment had been made, and we were given a payment based on last month's volume, digitally deposited by direct deposit, our choice, into our bank account. When I saw that, I had joy. Jenny always has joy. The new adaptations of the Amway Global site for business owners give you an idea as it's coming towards the end. And I remembered where we were last year on the 15th of January. And I looked up in my phone just to prove to myself that my memory was accurate. And we were on the Pacific Ocean in the boat with Warren and Carla Roberts. And if you follow on a daily basis the Gold Core Huddle, you'll see a picture that Jenny sent to David Humphrey of Warren and Carla Roberts sitting on the boat where he caught the marlin. that we ate the next day and had steak with April's special dressing. It was amazing. And it was awesome. Warren's riding name is Shepherd. My riding name is Sermonator. Warren had been on several efforts before to catch a marlin. Cabo is the world center for marlin fishing. And he was so eager to get a marlin. And I confess to you, I prayed that God would give him his desire. We had 5 lines in the water, and 2 of them were next to me, 3 of them were next to him, and he changed bait. They put a halibut on his, and he got a bite like that, just for the hell of it. I was so happy for him. I cannot describe his joy. But the thought occurred to me as we were enjoying the sun, waiting for the marlin to bite, sitting there on the 15th of January, 2021, that a deposit had been made in our account based on the previous month's volume. You can make mailboxmoney.com as well. Now there's a book called Prosumer Power 2 that we recommend that you read, and it's a book that Ginny and I have read more than once. It's a great read, a simple read, has a lot of helpful information for those of you who are in the process of being included in this, and recommend that. There's a Switch, Sell, Build app, which we highly recommend that you play with. Consider how many ways you can make money switching your buying habits, which is the key of creating personal volume, and then change your consumption habits, and then you get paid for your customer retail difference, and you get paid for your team volume. There's a document of income and expectations that will be included, and then there are upcoming digital and live events. On Tuesday this week at 6 p.m., there will be a Getting Started Right webcast by Rick and Mary Jane Matthews. That'll go for 24 hours. It is free, and we have 1 or 2 of those a month. And then at 8 o'clock local time, Nina Muller will be doing what's called a virtual meeting 3. She's a very dynamic presenter, and Ginny and I watch all of these. When we mentor somebody, we let them know that we expect them to do the same. David and April have taught us that, and so there's benefit of seeing the plan again and being aware of what's available, not only to you, but to others as well. Then on Thursday, this next week, on the 20th, at 8 p.m. local time here in Minnesota and elsewhere, Carl Day, the son-in-law of Warren Carla Roberts, will be doing the VM3. And then on Saturday the 29th is our virtual vision conference, 2 weeks from tonight when this is being recorded. And that is a critical event to your future. The impact is enormous. The speakers have videoed in advance, will be presented from YouTube, their remarks, and when we were in San Jose del Cabo, David had us do cameo appearances, which will be at the front end of our talks. You'll want to see those as well as our talks. You want to influence others who are not registered yet to be there. Your future, in my opinion, as a business owner, is dependent on being present at that event and influencing others, and you have time to do that. So we look forward to your success should you be chosen to be mentored in owning your own business and joining us in the Global Alliance of Entrepreneurs.